It was great.
I appreciate you coming.
Thank you for inviting me here.
Yeah.
Weather is so great outside. I love rain. I feel like I'm refreshed.
Yeah, it definitely has a way of invigorating things.
Yeah, correct. That's right.
So, do you have any trouble finding the place?
Oh, not at all. It was a perfect direction.
Awesome. That's good. So, if you would, tell me about your experience.
Yeah.
Sorry, your education.
Yeah. My education is highly relevant to the job description that Korean Air has. I have a strong skill set on finance, mathematics, economics, diversity, and technology. In airline industry, it has a lower margin than other industry, so it's crucial to reduce a cost, minimize risk on investment by hedging them, and maximize the capacity of the flight so that Korean Air can have a maximum revenue. From my managerial accounting course, I learned how to reduce a cost. From my finance course, I learned how to minimize risk by diversifying and hedging them on the investment. And I learned how to maximize the capacity of the flight from the statistic class. In a diversity perspective, I am a president of the Asian Pacific Society, so I have a lot of network throughout the world, and I learned how to distribute my culture and accept other cultures at Xavier University. Also in technology, I'm proficient in how to use Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and StatCrunch.
Great. How about some of your experience that you feel may be relevant to this position?
Yeah, when I was a squad leader in the military, I learned how to prepare, how to cooperate with others, how to listen to others' opinion, and how to satisfy both group that has indifferent thoughts. I worked in a KTUSA, it stands for Korean Augmentation to the United States Army, and as a squad leader, I adjust different thoughts between the U.S. and Korean Army. One day, the big inspection was coming up, and both U.S. and Korean soldiers worked together to meet the requirement. But before the day, Korean has a holiday, so Korean soldiers get day off because they belong to Korean government. However, U.S. soldiers don't get a day off since they belong to U.S. government. I talked to my first sergeant in U.S. Army and suggest him that we would like to overwork, or we would like to work until we meet the requirement that inspection is required. First sergeant was satisfied, and we worked until we meet the goal of the inspection, and we passed it. I learned how to cooperate with others by talking with them on issue, actively taking a action, and I learned how to listen to others' opinion by thinking their view, not my view, and I learned how to satisfy both of the group that has indifferent thoughts by thinking them and satisfying, bring up the solution that both groups can satisfy. That's my work experience.
Okay. Tell me about some of your experience in leadership.
Also, when I was a squad leader, I was in charge of about 10 to 60 soldiers, and I conducted daily counseling meeting, and it was a crucial duty for me because higher ranking soldiers cannot monitor all the soldiers that they're responsible every day on details. So I conducted my daily counseling meeting after work so that they can be relaxed and be flexible about the counseling meeting and be comfortable with that. One day, one of my soldiers brought up his family issue and uncertainty about his future that affects performing his duty as a soldier. I suggest him to think about what you can do right now and forget about what you cannot do right now, because there's nothing that you can do about it, and if it affects your duty right now and performance right now, that would hurt in the future. That wouldn't help anything. So he talked to after a couple of days, he talked to his parents to talk about his family issue, and apparently he signed up for the language course that he can use for the future. He wanted to be a squad leader, just like I did, and he took an English course as well, because English was a important language to learn in that duty, since squad leader in my position had adjusted different thoughts between U.S. armies and U.S. soldiers and Korean army. When my duty as a squad leader was over, he took a position of squad leader and conducted daily counseling session just like I did. In addition, as a president and founder of International Club in high school, I set a goal and gave an assignment to executive members and meet the goal. I planned out to have an international fair, and I gave certain amount of teachers that executive members to persuade and talk about why international fair is important and why students want to involve. As a result, more than 50% of student body in high school participated in the international fair, and when I graduated from high school, the international fair is being conducted once a year continuously.
Great. If you would, tell me about a weakness that you might see.
I'm proud of that. I achieved 3.86 out of 4 GPA during the spring semester while I was taking 21 credits. From perspective, I achieved much lower grade in earlier of the college years. I learned how to manage the limited time efficiently, how to set the multiple priority duties and complete it in the right way, and how to be disciplined myself all the time and everything that what I do.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you would, tell me about a time when you didn't use authority, you used influence.
Yeah. Also, when I was in military as a squad leader, we conducted daily physical training every day, and I participated a month of the board every month or quarter or year. Since all Korean men has to serve for military, they're drafted. Most of the time they're lack of the motivation that perform their best for country. So I was thinking, should I use authority or influencing others by leading them by an example? Authority may seem easier to influence them. However, I thought that it's not a good method to use it, because authority only lasts temporarily. So by running harder and faster, I show how they're supposed to do in a physical training, and also talk to them. Physically shaped personnel having more confidence than others in study, and intrinsic motivation to be proud of themselves and what they do for the country. And if you achieve a high score, you get a compensation leave. As a result, my unit achieved the highest physical training score in the battalion and I received a certificate of appreciation from the commander of the battalion. In a military board, it's unusual to participate month of the board as a squad leader, since squad leader has already done it. However, I just participated to show that why it's important. I told them by having, so military board is like a interview about military knowledge and answer some open questions that higher ranking soldiers might have. So, so I participated in military board, and I told them by talking under that kind of pressure will give more opportunities to present your idea a better way when you become a businessman, to meet customers' expectation, to grow organization's business. As a result, our unit also won all the month of the board, month of the quarter of the board, and month of the board 2 consecutive years.
Awesome. Could you tell me about a time when you took a group and instead of managing the group, you allowed the group to manage themselves?
10 soldiers that I was I had a responsibility directly divided into 3 sections. So one day, 2 of the 3 section leaders came up to me, who were managed by me, and tell me that their junior soldiers are not performing to meet their standard, section leader's standard, and the section leader is having a hard time to manage them. I thought that give junior soldiers or personnel who were managed by somebody, if they can have more time to manage themselves, which means more time to learn new materials, more time to adjust into a new environment, they would possibly perform better. So I told them give them a little bit of time, because we cannot, although military situation requires everybody to learn faster, however, give them a good amount of time to adjust into military lives, since they only came to the unit for a couple of weeks. And just keep reminding yourself that not everybody is fast learner, but also there are some slow learners, however possibly efficiently work in the future. They accept the idea, and they gave more time to junior soldiers to think about themselves and how to manage themselves, and then think about what their duty is and what their expectation is. After a couple of weeks, 2 of the section leaders, all of them came up to me and told me that it worked, and they met the standard, and they met the expectation. From that, I learned that giving leaders, like personnel who were led, giving them more times to think about themselves and how to manage themselves would be efficient way to manage a group as a leader.
Okay. Can you think of a time or an experience when you had to inform or educate?
So one of my students, English tutoring students, were accepted second-ranked college in Japan, but he met all the requirements, but English fluency test. His score was 42 out of 120, and he was required to meet 60 out of 120, which was the minimum requirement to get accepted on that college. He had about 6 months and I had about 2 months to give him a tutor. Before even started tutoring, I thought that by giving a pre-exam and to figure out which part, so that English fluency test has 4 parts: reading, listening, speaking, and writing. So by giving a pre-exam and figure out which part he has the weakest ability, by focusing on that section, I thought that I could improve his score much more efficiently. His listening ability was the worst part out of 4 sections, and during the tutoring session, I read the description of the listening file so that he can slowly learn how to listen other language, and I gave him an assignment to listen to the listening file over and over again until he actually listened it, because that's one of the way to learn other language, just by listening all the time when you actually understand or get used to it. He did it, and I also planned out the other parts, which were reading, writing, speaking, to let him to work on it after the tutoring session. Before taking the exam, I thought that it's rational to give him a post-exam to give him a confident. Apparently, I made it a little bit easier so that he can have a confident. He achieved a higher score that he's required to. He got a confident, and he was ready to go. So on the test day, after when we received the result, the score was above the requirement, and his parents and himself was appreciated to my tutoring session, as well as my planning skills that he made him to work on outside of the tutoring session.
Okay. So, tell me why we should hire you here.
My education, personal qualities, work experience, and leadership skills are highly relevant to what Korean Air is looking for. My education, I learned how to reduce a cost, how to minimize risk by hedging and diversify the portfolio, and how to maximize the capacity of the flight by using a statistic skills. Also, by listening others, how to learn how to cooperate with others, how to satisfy not only myself, but also other groups that has indifferent thoughts from my work experience. Also, I learned how to lead others by looking at their view, not my view, and not giving my standard to meet the expectation, but let them have a more time to meet the standard that an organization is required. From that, all of my education, personal qualities, and then work experience, leadership experience are meet the idea of the candidate that Korean Air has, which are multicultural sensitivity, proactive mind, customer service, and teamwork. Yeah.
Do you have any questions for me?
Yes, I do. So currently, Emirates Airline purchased about 90 aircrafts on Airbus 380, which, as you know, which is huge aircraft. So I'm wondering what's Korean Air's future plan to compete with Emirates Airline, and what's the future strategy to have a business in Middle East market?